Hello there, everybody, and welcome. My name is Tamir Moore, and welcome to the latest episode here on my YouTube channel. Also, I will invite you to follow me on social media as I often post there a lot. You can check out the links to my Twitter and Instagram profiles on this intro screen. And one last quick thing, you can check out my latest video by clicking the card in the upper right corner. And now it is time to start today's featured episode. And now, here is Tamir Moore with the special Thanksgiving Day edition of What You Need to Know. Hello, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. My name is Tamir Moore. Thanks so much for joining us for episode 10 of What You Need to Know. Obviously, a short week from Sunday to Thursday. It's great to be back with you. Hopefully, you will have a happy and safe Thanksgiving and a joyous holiday season coming up. Today, we have a Week 13 matchup for you that has tons of importance. As the Green Bay Packers take on the Detroit Lions, Green Bay 7-3-1. Detroit 7-4. We have a lot of subject to cover in the special Thanksgiving Day edition of the show. But before we get started with the main content of the program, a couple of housekeeping items to take care of. Make sure that you like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified of all of our newest content. We post every single week here. So if you like football, if you like the content that we talk about here, then this is definitely the place for you to be. So definitely make sure you join the Tamir Moore YouTube family. Tell a friend to do the same. We're trying to build this channel up and trying to grow the independent media space. We are still at 55 subscribers. As I mentioned in the previous episodes of this show, we're trying to get you 100 subscribers here on YouTube by the end of this year. The year is quickly coming to an end. We only have roughly a month left, so we need to get the word spread to try to get our subscriber count to the 100 subscriber goal. I have planned for myself, so hopefully we get there. If not, then maybe we can get to 100 subscribers by the end of 2026. Hope you're having a good week. Hope you're having a great start to your Thanksgiving week so far. Obviously, I bet a lot of you procrastinated, waited to the last minute to get to the store, get to the market, try to get some last minute items. I love turkey, ham, macaroni and cheese, cranberry sauce, all those fixings, sweet potato pie, casserole, cheesecake, all the good stuff in here, pudding and stuff like that. Let me know in the comments down below, what are your favorite Thanksgiving meals and sides? I would love to hear about it as we are filming this early Thanksgiving morning, the start of another holiday season, and a great matchup that we will be covering today, Packers-Lions. Okay. With the housekeeping taken care of, we have 3 sections today. Normally we have 4 sections, but I decided to shorten it for the purposes of time. We will start off with the reference notes. We will go to the injury report and then the game capsule, and that's it, right? So it's going to be a little bit different format than what you guys are used to, but we're going to have fun nonetheless. Before we get into section 1, the NFL on Fox feed music to set the mood. All right, with that taken care of, let's get into the show in teeth. We're going to start off with section number 1, reference the reference notes, basically setting up the base for the entire show. We have 4 reference notes for this week's Packers-Lions game. This is the 23rd time that Green Bay and Detroit are meeting on Thanksgiving, which is the most in NFL history. Green Bay is coming off of a 23-6 win over the Vikings at home last week. The Packers enter this game with a record of 7-3-1, 6 in the NFC. Currently, Green Bay is the second wild card. They are second in the NFC North, trailing the Chicago Bears at 8-3. And guess what? The Bears will be playing the Packers next Sunday, and we will be covering Bears versus Packers for next Sunday's edition of What You Need to Know. So early heads up that we have NFC North for the next 2 weeks on this show. So we're really looking forward to getting to the meat and potatoes of a division that's really competitive. It is super congested. We have 3 teams separated by only one game. You take Minnesota out. The Vikings are 4-7. Minnesota's pretty much out of the division hunt. It's basically a 3-team race between Chicago, Green Bay, and Detroit. Any game featuring a combination of these 3 teams for the final third of the year is going to go a long way to determining the eventual division champion in this division and see who will have rights to host a wild card playoff game in January. The Lions, coming off of a 34-27 overtime win last week against the New York Giants. Giants had a late fourth-quarter lead, and once again, the Giants fell apart, fell flat on their face. The Lions were able to get the win overtime. Jahmyr Gibbs was great. We'll talk more about Jahmyr Gibbs' special performance against the Giants later in the show. And the Detroit Lions, of course, the traditional Thanksgiving host. This is their 87th game on Thanksgiving, I believe. Yep. The Lions, this is their 87th game on Thanksgiving, which is more than any other team in the league. It's them and the Cowboys, and then there's everybody else. And for the Detroit Lions, it's a tradition to have Thanksgiving here at Ford Field. And I expect that Lions fans are going to pack this stadium. It's a big game for them, big game for their opponent today. And I expect this to be a really, really good football game. Next week, the Lions will be back at home. The Lions are currently in the midst of a 3-game homestand that started last week. They have a home game against Green Bay here on Thanksgiving. And then next Thursday, December 4th, Dak Prescott and the red-hot Dallas Cowboys will be in town. Dallas has won 2 straight after a free 5-1 start, obviously playing with a lot of emotions in the wake of the death of Marshawn Nealon, who of course took his own life 3 weeks ago today. So the Lions have a big game in Week 14. So does the Green Bay Packers. Okay, Section 2, the injury report. Let's talk about the injury report entering today's Packers-Lions battle. We'll start with the road team, the Green Bay Packers. And unfortunately, the Packers are going to be without some key players today. Defensive lineman Carl Brooks did not practice this week at all. Ankle injury, he's out for this game. So big loss in Green Bay's defense. Wide receiver Jaden Reed has been dealing with a foot/shoulder injury. He was a limited participant in practice. Unfortunately, was not good enough to play, so he's out. We'll see what his status is moving forward. And Packer defensive lineman Lucas Van Ness, foot injury, did not practice. He's out for today's Thanksgiving battle. Several players for Green Bay are questionable. Wide receiver Matthew Golden, a rookie out of Texas, has been dealing with a wrist injury. Limited participant in practice Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. He is questionable for this game, so we'll see if he'll go or not. Packers quarterback Nate Hobbs has been dealing with a knee injury. Limited participant Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. He's questionable for today, so we'll see if he'll go. Cornerback Keyshawn Nixon, who ranks second in the NFL with 14 passes defended in 2025. He's been dealing with a neck injury. Keyshawn did not practice on Monday. He was a limited participant Tuesday and yesterday. He is questionable for this game. And Packers linebacker Quay Walker, he's been dealing with a neck injury, limited participant in practice Monday, Tuesday, and yesterday, questionable for this game. Other notable Green Bay players on the injury report include quarterback Jordan Love, who's been dealing with a shoulder injury. He played with a bum shoulder last week against the Vikings. We'll get into more details about that later in this broadcast. Full participant this week. He is scheduled to go here today. Wide receiver Christian Watson had some dealing with a knee injury. Full participant. Christian will be ready to go for this game. Dontavian Wicks, Packers wide receiver, dealing with a calf injury. Limited participant, no injury status, so he's expected to play for the Packers today. Packers get a huge piece back Packers running back Josh Jacobs, who missed last week's game due to a knee injury. Emmanuel Wilson filled in for him. Josh Jacobs is back for this game despite being a limited participant in practice, so it's going to be huge to get Josh Jacobs back. Josh Jacobs has 100 or more scrimmage yards in 2 of his past 3 games. Packers wide receiver Romeo Doubs is dealing with a wrist injury, full participant this week in practice. No injury status, good to go. Packers linebacker Edgerrin Cooper has been dealing with a foot/shoulder injury. Limited participant Monday and Tuesday, full participant yesterday, no injury status. He's good to go for today. And Packers safety Javon Bullard has been dealing with an ankle injury. He was limited in practice Monday and Tuesday, full participant yesterday, no injury status. He's expected to go for the Packers today. Meanwhile, let's talk about Detroit and let's flip it over to the other side. Unfortunately, the Lions have several key players out today. At least 5 players for the Lions are out for this game. Center Graham Glasnow, safety Kirby Joseph, defensive end Joshua Pascal, wide receiver Khalif Raymond, and tight end Black Wright all out for this game. So the Lions are very short-handed on both sides of the ball heading into this ball game. However, the injury news does get better from here. Cornerback Terrion Arnold has been dealing with a concussion, limited participant in practice Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, questionable for the game. Marcus Davenport, Lions defensive end, he's been dealing with a shoulder injury, full participant, but he is questionable for this game. Several more questionables for the Detroit Lions. Guard Miles Frazier dealing with a knee injury, full participant all week. He's questionable for today's game. Lions guard Tate Ratledge dealing with a knee injury, limited participant Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, questionable for the game. Offensive tackle Panay Shul dealing with an ankle injury, limited participant Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, questionable for the game. Wide receiver Isaac Tesalasa, Lions wide receiver Isaac Tasala have been dealing with a hand injury, limited participant Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, questionable for the game. And Sion Vatkai, Lions running back, and dealing with an ankle/thumb injury, limited participant in practice Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and is questionable for this game. So unfortunately, both teams are missing significant people here today, but we often say this in sports. It's an overused cliche, I feel, but next man up. That's true because both teams right now are a little banged up, which is to be expected. We are 12 weeks into an 18-week season. You're going to see folks pop up on the injury report, right? It's a 17-game grind. Obviously, players get worn down by the travel, by the practices, by the games, and stuff like that. That's not a surprise to see people pop up in the injury report and stuff like that. This is why these athletes are some of the best in the world. Think about all the sacrifice, all the time that it takes to be a professional athlete, especially playing the National Football League, playing a sport that is global and has a presence all over the world. And for the players who are out, we are wishing you a quick and speedy recovery. Hopefully, we'll see you out there before the season is over. And for the Lions, unfortunately, no injury status, right? If I marked you in yellow, you are expected to play. If you're marked in orange, you're out. If you are in the pink, you are questionable for this game. Okay. That is it for the injury report. And let's get into the final section of the show, the game capsule. And I do promise you, eventually, we'll be bringing back the additional notes section in future episodes, just for the sake of this episode, since we're shooting this super late prior to the Thanksgiving day. We had to shorten it down for the purpose of the time to make sure we get everything we wanted to say in and make sure I have enough time to upload and edit this to YouTube before Thursday's kickoff, because Thursday could be a busy day because not only we are covering this Detroit Green Bay game, but we also got the parade in the morning, the free football games, and then Black Friday, and then Saturday, a little bit of a break, and then of course a full slate of football Sunday, and of course Monday Night Football. So obviously Thanksgiving, a busy week as far as football is concerned. A lot of great games this weekend across the league. Again, happy Thanksgiving, everyone, as we get into the game capsule. Settle in for a great matchup with plenty on the line. On the Turkey Day from Motown, at the Green Bay Packers, 7-3-1, travel to Detroit to play the Lions, 7-4. Following the Lions' Sunday night loss in Philadelphia in Week 11, Detroit grinded out a 34-27 overtime win over the Giants in Week 12. Lions defensive end Aiden Hudson's sack on Giants quarterback Jameis Winston in overtime last week officially ended any chance for the Giants to pull up an upset. The lone sack for the Lions was the biggest one of all because that iced the game for them. Detroit has been a little bit of a bumpy ride over the last 6 weeks. After a quick 4-1 start, the Lions have alternated wins and losses for the past 6 weeks. Okay, we have 15 keys for you this week, so let's get into it. Key number one, let's start with the home team, the Detroit Lions. What a special performance Jahmyr Gibbs had last week against the New York Giants. Jahmyr Gibbs was a contributor in multiple ways as a rusher and as a receiver. Let's talk about Jahmyr Gibbs in his natural running back position first. Last week, he ran the ball 15 times for 219 yards, averages a splendid 14.6 yards per carry, and had 2 touchdowns, including a 69-yard sprint to the house in overtime that turned out to be the game-winning touchdown. He had an excellent performance last week with Jahmyr showing off his unstoppable quickness and speed. Jahmyr Gibbs has been huge for the Detroit Lions as of late. Jahmyr Gibbs is the barometer to how successful or unsuccessful the Lions are in a given week. Over Detroit's last 3 wins, Gibbs has averaged 130 yards or more. However, over the last 3 losses, he is averaging under 70 yards per. So basically, it's feast or famine. And for Green Bay, your job this week is to either stop and or limit Jahmyr Gibbs. Because if you do that, the Packers have a great chance to win this football game. If you can't stop or limit Jahmyr Gibbs, guess what? You're probably going to get blown right out the stadium. So you're the Green Bay Packers. We got to find a way to get Jahmyr Gibbs bottled up throughout the entire day so Jahmyr Gibbs did not rip off those big runs like he did last week against the New York Giants. Key one continues. Let's talk about Lions running back Jahmyr Gibbs as a receiver. Week 12 versus Giants. 12 targets, 11 receptions, 45 yards, and a touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs had 3 touchdowns in all, 2 as a runner, 1 as a receiver. Jahmyr Gibbs was busy last week as a receiver and as a rusher. What is the nickname for Jahmyr Gibbs? I'm trying to pull up right now. All right, give me a second. Pull up something on the computer off camera. Jahmyr Gibbs, Sonic, man. If you ever play Sonic Hedgehog, the video game, I played that game a lot when I was younger. Jahmyr Gibbs had speed that cannot be taught. If Jahmyr Gibbs gets 1 foot on the ground and Jahmyr Gibbs bounces one to the outside, guess what? He's probably going to take it for a house call. So Jahmyr Gibbs, really great performance for the young man last week. I expect Jahmyr Gibbs to pick up right where he left off in this game against the Packers. Following 2 home losses to Carolina and Philadelphia, weeks 9 and 10, the Packers are rebounded with 2 consecutive wins over the Giants and Vikings, week 11 and week 12. In fact, we just covered the Packers recently. In fact, 2 weeks ago, we covered their week 11 win against the New York Giants. If you want to learn more about that game, please click the card in the upper right corner for more information. We will be covering the Packers 3 times in a 4-week stretch. And before we continue, a quick side note. Last week, we covered the Week 12 game between the Eagles and the Cowboys. And that was the game, of course, when the Eagles had a 21-0 lead. And then the Eagles choked in epic fashion. Dallas scored 24 straight to win that game. If you would like to learn more about that game, then please click the card in the upper right corner for more on that. And I just wanted to get that in because I did not mention it earlier in the video. The Packers defense had a tough time against the run last week against Minnesota. gave up 42 yards on 5.3 yards per carry to running back Jordan Mason, 41 yards on 4.6 yards per carry to running back and former Packer, of course, Aaron Jones. However, they are still holding running backs to 3.9 yards per carry for the season thus far. Key number 2, week 1. This is the second time this year that two teams have played. They played in week 1 at Lambeau Field to start the season 12 weeks ago, back on September 7th. Green Bay beat Detroit 27-13. Remember, Green Bay started the season 2-0. They were 5-1-1. 2 losses to the Panthers and Eagles, 2 straight wins over the Giants and Minnesota has allowed Green Bay to enter this game with a 7-3-1 record. They only gave up 13 points on this day. Jahmyr Gibbs, though, he was living it. Only 19 yards in the opening week game. That's what I'm talking about. If you're able to keep Jahmyr Gibbs under 50 yards rushing, that's a pretty good omen what's to come. Lions quarterback Jared Goff, he had a sub-90 quarterback rating on this day. The Packers were able to get an interception off of him. Key number 3, speaking of Jared Goff, let's talk about Jared Goff more for key number 3. Let's look at Jared Goff's day last week against the New York Football Giants. 279 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He did throw a pick. He finished with a quarterback rating of 91.3. 250 or more yards in 4 straight games now, under 7 yards per attempt for the second consecutive week. Good day at the office for the Lions single caller. Better than the dud he turned in Philadelphia 2 weeks ago, but still not coming in off of an A-plus performance, you know what I mean. If you're Jared Goff, though, there's a lot of things to learn from that Giants game, but at least it's a step in the right direction, though. And obviously, this game means a lot for both of these teams, right? The Lions and Packers are in a divisional race. Both teams, of course, trying to keep pace in the playoff picture. Every game matters. And in my view, whoever loses this game is likely going to be on the outside looking in at the end of the season, because the NFC is so stacked right now. So many good teams. Look at the NFC playoff picture. Rams 9-2 entering this week. Then you have the Eagles and Bears at 8-3. Tampa 6-5. Of course, we all know the Baker Mayfield situation with them. Hopefully, Baker Mayfield will not miss too much time, if at all. Those are your 4 division leaders. Then the wild cards. You have Seattle at 8-3. Green Bay at 7-3-1. San Francisco, after that win against Carolina Monday night, they're 8-4. Those are your 3 wild cards. Seahawks, Packers, and 49ers. And then in the hunt, Detroit Lions, Carolina Panthers, 6-6. Cowboys 5-5-1. There goes down. Cowboys lurking after 2 straight wins over Las Vegas and Philadelphia. And then you have Atlanta and Minnesota at 4-7. And then you have Arizona and Washington at 3-8. Saints are 2-9. The Giants are 2-10. Giants were the first team to be eliminated from playoff contention last week. You see, the NFC is very, very tight right now. Think about it. In the NFC right now, 7 of the top 8 teams in the NFC have at least 7 wins or more. The only team that does not is Tampa Bay at 6-5. They can get the 7 wins if they beat the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday. So this is the big game for the Detroit Lions, in case you can't tell. All right, let's see what's next here. Key number 4, Packers pass defense week 12 versus Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy. 87 yards, 4.6 yards per attempt, no touchdowns. McCarthy was picked off twice with his Green Bay defense, and McCarthy's quarterback rating was a terrible 34, which is worse than if you did nothing but spike the ball to the ground on every single play, as my boy Jaguar Gator 9 will say during his vids. Give my man JG9 some credit for that famous line, if you will. Your quarterback rating, for those who may not know this, if you have a quarterback rating of 39.6, that means you do nothing but spike the ball into the ground on every single play. J.J. McCarthy would have been better off spiking the ball into the ground on every single play here. Green Bay's defense has been very strong over the past several games. Green Bay has allowed under 202 passing yards 5 straight games now. They made McCarthy's day a living hell. Key number 5. Packers defense week 12 versus Vikings. Only allowed 6 points on the day to Minnesota. 2 of 9 on third down, 1 red zone trip, under 17 points in 4 straight games. Green Bay's defense continued to show up week in and week out. Key number 6. Lions offense week 12 against the Giants. 34 points that they rolled for. 5 for 12 on third down, 2 for 4 in the red zone. Superb effort from Detroit in terms of scoring point. They were able to gobble up 34 points, trying to use a little Thanksgiving theme here. The key for Detroit is to get to 24 points. That seemed to be a magical number for this team. When the Lions score at least 24 or more in the game, they're 7-1. However, if Detroit is held under 24 points, they're 0-3 this season. So if the Lions score 24 points against Green Bay this week, that means Detroit will have a great chance to win. Key number 7. Lions offense week 12 against the Giants. 3 sacks. Jared Goff was put on the ground 3 times last week in 42 pass attempts. Goff has been sacked at least twice in 4 of his past 5 games. And guess what? Micah Parsons and his friends are going to be tasked with getting after Jared Goff during this Thanksgiving game here today. Micah Parsons sacked J.D. McCarthy, the Vikings quarterback, twice last week. In all, McCarthy was sacked 5 times. Parsons with 2, and several of his teammates were able to get some sacks as well during this game. And that leads us to key number 8, Packers pass rush week 12 versus Vikings. 5 sacks, 19 pass attempts. Micah Parsons, 2 sacks. He has 10 for the season, first year as a Packer after spending the first several years of his career with the Dallas Cowboys. Key number 9, Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, week 12 versus Giants. 13 targets, 9 receptions, 149 yards and a touchdown. Amon-Ra had a really excellent day, and he's going to be the primary concern for the Packers defensive back. Do not let Amon-Ra St. Brown get off. If St. Brown is able to get into the flow of the offense, they're catching some balls, getting yards after catch, it could be a long day for the defensive backs of the Green Bay Packers. Key number 10, let's talk about the Green Bay Packers offense last week against the Minnesota Vikings. 23 points, 7 of 14, which is 50% on third down, 2 for 4 in the red zone, which is 50%. The Packers are averaging 23.9 points per game this season, which is 13th in the NFL. They did the job last week against a Minnesota team that really couldn't do anything from an offensive standpoint. Keep in mind, Jordan Love was not fully healthy last week. He was nursing a shoulder injury during last week's win against Minnesota. He just passed the ball for 139 yards. He's not throwing any touchdown passes in the Minnesota game, and he had 6.6 yards per attempt. However, he was held clean, though, by the Packers' offensive line. Jordan Love was only sacked once during the Vikings game. More notes on key number 9 for the Detroit Lions. Lions wide receiver Khalif Wayman had 37 yards against the Giants last week. Jamison Williams had 3 targets and no catches against the Giants in week 12, so we'll see if Jamison Williams can get himself a catch or 2 in this game. Lions defense has held opponents to 22 points per game so far in 2025. They have a 27 points last week against the New York Giants. Key number 11, Lions pass defense week 12 versus Giants quarterback Jameis Winston. 366 yards, 2 touchdown passes, interception, and Jameis almost found a way to beat the Lions on the road. And remember, he scored that 33-yard receiving touchdown. He stiff-armed a man. Jameis Winston was able to rumble his way in the end zone for a touchdown. That was pretty nice to watch on tape. The Lions gave up 27 points, but the Giants are not very good, right? The Lions, though, are very lucky, though, that 27 points did not beat them on this day. The Lions put up 34, Giants put up 27. And as long as you score more points than your opponent, you win the game. And they gave up 8 of 16 on third down to the Giants last week. Giants wide receiver Wandale Robinson torched Detroit's defense for over 150 yards last week, 77 yards allowed to Giants tight end Theo Johnson, 68 yards to Giants running back Tyrone Tracy, and 42 yards to Giants wide receiver Isaiah Hodgins. Key number 12, Packers quarterback Jordan Love in 2025, 15 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 232.7 yards per game, and a quarterback rating of 102 so far on the year. Week 1 against the Lions, Jordan Love played well. 188 yards of passing, 2 touchdowns, quarterback rating of 128.6, which is not too shabby, if I do say so myself. Packers wide receiver Romeo Doubs at 23 yards against Minnesota in Week 12. Packers wide receiver Dontavian Wicks with 32 yards against the Vikings last week. And Packers wide receiver Christian Watson had 49 yards during the Vikings game on Sunday. Key number 13, Packers wide receiver Christian Watson, Week 12 versus Vikings. Christian has 7 targets, he had 5 receptions, and he put up 49 yards. He's averaging between 45 and 58 yards over his last 4 games. And of course, as we told you earlier in the show, Josh Jacobs out last week because of a knee injury suffered in the Giants game 2 weeks ago. Back this week, Emmanuel Wilson filled in for him last week and did a pretty admirable job. Key number 14, Packers running back Emmanuel Wilson, Week 12 versus Vikings, 28 attempts, 107 yards, 3.8 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. And again, Wilson filled in for Jacobs last week as starting running back. Josh Jacobs is back this week, so that's a big boost to have Josh Jacobs back in the lineup for Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers. And one quick leading to our final key of the show, Lions defense gave up over 100 yards combined between Giants running back Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy Jr. last week, but both limited to under 3.5 yards per carry. And key number 15, Lions rush defense. They have allowed under 4 yards per carry to opposing running back, tied for 8th. That is key number 15 for this week. Again, a reminder to make sure to like, subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell if you like this channel, if you want to be up to date and be notified when new episodes like this drop. Please do so. That will really help the algorithm out if you do that. And I do appreciate somebody left a really positive comment for me in the comments on last week's show saying you like the content. I really do appreciate that. I really do, man. So I'm glad people enjoy what we do. And as long as y'all continue to watch, I will continue to produce and make content for you guys because that's what we do. This is episode 10 of What You Need to Know, if you possibly can believe that. If you have not watched or you would like to rewatch any of the first 9 episodes of the show, I will leave a playlist to What You Need to Know episodes in the description of this video below. So make sure you check that out during the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday weekend. And that is it for this special Thanksgiving edition of What You Need to Know, episode 10. We'll be back next Sunday, so there will be a little bit of a gap between this episode and the next episode, episode 11. We'll be covering the Week 14 game next Sunday as Caleb Williams and the NFC North leading Chicago Bears take on Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. And I promise you next week we'll be back to our traditional Saturday, Sunday, record Sunday upload schedule. I know this week the schedule was thrown off because we have a game on Thanksgiving, but we make the adjustments and you go from there. That is it for this episode of What You Need to Know. Thanks so much for joining us. Again, have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for spending part of your Thanksgiving day with us here. Enjoy your holiday. Enjoy Black Friday. Make sure you support the small businesses this weekend. Try to get some good deals online, right? Amazon, Target. Hope you have fun with that. Hopefully you get some of the gifts that you've been wanting all year and stuff like that. And it's time for us to say peace out, everybody. So until the next time we speak, this is Tamir Moore saying so long. Thanks so much for being here. Enjoy your holidays, everybody. Be safe, be well. Enjoy Packers Lions, enjoy Chiefs versus Cowboys, enjoy Bengals Ravens, enjoy Bears Eagles on Black Friday. Enjoy the rest of the week 13 NFL action. And we will see you guys right back here. Same time, same place, regular schedule next weekend for week 14. What's up, guys? It's Tamir Moore. I appreciate you for watching today's video, and I look forward to seeing you next time for another YouTube video. In the meanwhile, don't forget to like and subscribe, and also check out my social media profiles and my YouTube profile, which I provided in this outro screen. So long, everybody, and have a great day.